Hey, welcome to the dawn of the Millennium, the year 2000 in Hearts of Iron 4. Today, we will be playing not as France, but as Spain. We're in an interesting situation and the world awaits our next decision as we prove that this is not an American century or an Asian century, but a Spanish century. We might not own Gibraltar, but we own this little piece of land across the straits from Gibraltar. And soon we will own Gibraltar no matter what Tony Blair does. Because today no civil war will plague our nation. And we won't use those cheesy influence mechanics, no. We'll begin to build up our industry. We'll begin to reform the Spanish military. We will bring back the old ways, the forgotten ways. We may only have 6 military factories, but 6 is all we will need to take over our small, weak nations with less than 6 military factories. We might not be able to beat France, but France isn't part of the former Spanish Empire last time I checked. Maybe it could be part of the new Spanish Empire, but it is not our greatest priority. We'll of course have to move into Andorra and make their cities as cute as ours. We could immediately move into building up our military industry, but right now it's much more important that we build up our civilian industry for later. We have a decent amount of armed forces, but they won't work well when we have to invade countries like Mexico or Brazil. I guess Brazil wasn't really part of the Spanish Empire, but Mexico is pretty strong, and it's going to be difficult to take a new Spain back. At least they have no guarantees from America, so we won't have to fight America. They're not in NATO or anything, too. There's increased consumer confidence within the Spanish Empire, and we have fast growth. That's great to see. We also have a lot of French foreign influence inside our country, but I don't think it'll matter. And we're not gonna mess with foreign influence today because it's just too overpowered, and I'm not gonna do it. It ruins the experience of a good Inquisition if you're just becoming friends with everybody and sleeping with all the other country leaders. It's not the same. And Germany wants to sponsor the empire. That is nice to see. Building up the tourism industry, appreciated. And I have to say, it's very, very tempting to start influencing America. With a click of this button a few hundred times, they will become our puppet state, and there's nothing they can do to stop it. And the modern era, of course, prioritizes quality over quantity, but we'll be needing to have a large quantity of divisions to do all the things that we were planning on doing today. So we're going to reform our basic light infantry brigade, give them new pink-purple striped uniforms, and give them the numbers that they need. We will increase the division size a little bit once we get more army experience, and then make a ton of these guys. They'll be everywhere. Soon their striped uniforms will be infamous. We'll also need to keep doing nationalist propaganda campaign. Of course, the nationalists won the Civil War, but we're not very nationalist anymore, and to reform the Spanish Empire, we do have to have some nationalism. We're also leasing industrial complexes to help us build faster, and other than that, there isn't too much for us to worry about. And we've changed up our production a bit too. We were producing a lot of planes mainly. I think 5 of our 6 military factories, or 4 of them, were set to planes, and all of them were using rubber when we don't produce any of our own rubber. And we could always buy rubber, but that's not very ideal, especially in the early game here. We won't print any money though, no printing money. I like how there's this big decisions button over the decisions menu. It's kind of fun. It makes this much better because now you can only see down here. We're also going to get rid of some of our corruption, go from widespread corruption to medium corruption. Maybe eventually we'll be able to get rid of it all, but it's not too important. we get extra political power anyways from having the corruption, so it's not a complete loss, but we get so much political power that the 0.2 isn't worth all the negatives that come with having more corruption. We'll probably need quite a bit of corruption to have the Spanish Empire function properly, but we don't want to push things too harshly. And we'll switch now from consumption economy to semi-consumption economy. We'll want to slowly keep moving down this path too, so that we can eventually get to globalized trade economy. We don't have many resources anyways right now, so there's no point in being on the equivalent of limited exports in vanilla. And in this version, the trade law affects consumer goods, which is called tax cost here. And we'll need to get tax cost as low as possible, because right now we're not in a good position in terms of tax cost. Also, we'll now go from extensive police and intelligence apparatus to high police and intelligence apparatus. That'll significantly reduce our ideology drift defense, which we need to be low. And then we'll move on to decreasing this some more. And perfect, now we can decrease it, which will decrease our tax cost by another 3%, which gives us access to another factory. So we've gone from 11 to 13 since we built one and got that extra one by decreasing tax cost. Tax cost is still pretty high. We're at 38% total. We'll try to get it as low as possible, but I feel like around 25% might be the minimum. And now we can utilize 14 civilian factories, which is great and will help us build back the Spanish Empire. However, more important to rebuilding the Spanish Empire, it's time to take some land that we really didn't hold for that long when the Spanish Empire was a thing, but it's kind of important, I would say. It'll help us rebuild this empire pretty fast, and our industry is booming. We have 18 factories now. Our economy is doing well. We formed a new government, and we will soon begin operations in Morocco. We'll have to skip over Gibraltar for now. Gibraltar is it's gonna take a while to get that. Oh, and digital copyright control. That sounds like a very imperialist thing to do, so we'll vote yes. We also have a new leader. The old one got replaced by Eric Bravo. He doesn't have a very good trait though, so I think we're going to get rid of this guy too once we get enough political power, and hope we get a good trait. And we've finally found a pretty competent president, John. He's a war industrialist, which doesn't matter too much right now, but in the future that'll be a very good trait. Okay, here we are moving to the south. If anything, we should, I know, be expanding in the Americas, but it's kind of hard to get over there right now. We'll be able to invade some place like Venezuela soon enough. America doesn't like them anyways, so they'll easily let us invade over there. Morocco has a bigger military than us, but they only have one military factory, so I'm not too worried about in the long term not being able to win here. Yep, and we encircled most of their army. We should be able to we broke into their capital, and hopefully we'll be able to take these two coastal tiles before they deorg this division here. We don't want to be losing any of our guys. And they are done. Our foothold in North Africa is secure. And now we have more than just these two ports that we negotiated to keep. We'll annex everything and we'll continue pushing across North Africa for now. There's nowhere else we can easily expand yet, but we do have our eye on the Americas. And for anyone confused, usually in Millennium Dawn you can't justify war goals until you have, I think it's 55% total world tension, so I've changed it a little bit so I can justify with less with enough nationalism support, which makes this better in a lot of ways because Millennium Dawn is such a slow mod that we would go through several videos like that France one without having a single conflict. And now all the other EU and NATO members are starting to not to like us that much, understandably. We still have good relations with all of them, but as we generate more and more world tension, they're really going to start despising us. And we're moving into Algeria. They, unlike Morocco, they don't have a strong military, and I don't think they have military factories too. Well, no, they have more military factories, but again, they don't have a strong enough military to really stop us right now. This feels a lot like TNO. This is a pretty common battlefield in that mod. Egypt doesn't have a strong economy like us, but their armed forces are 2 to 3 times as big as ours, so I don't think we'll be able to take the Suez or anything, but I think we may try. We might just have to delay that until after going to Venezuela and Colombia around there. Yeah, because Venezuela is pretty weak, so we should be able to get into there. We're also increasing our military funding from small to medium. That'll end up being helpful. It's a nice policy from our good friend John. He is a war industrialist after all. And this may seem a little weird, but I think it's best to not really put any occupying forces in this area. I believe in Millennium Dawn here, what we want to do is just let them slowly appreciate our rule and become citizens hand in hand with the other citizens of the Spanish Empire. Compliance is already pretty high in these areas, it's impressive. And I forgot Tunisia is guaranteed by Egypt, so now we're kind of stuck in a perpetual war with someone who's pretty powerful, and we were able to get a landing since they weren't defending this area. All their divisions were probably on the borders with Libya and Israel, but they've moved in enough divisions that we're going to have some problems here. We've encircled everything in the west though, so at least 4 divisions have been encircled if we can clean this up. And we should be able to push south enough and extend the border long enough that we can start doing some tricky things and take Cairo. And after clearing up the encirclement in the east, we're on much fair ground, getting some support from Iran. And with that done, we're going to want to release Egypt as a puppet, because if we release them as a puppet and then integrate them, we'll get free cores on all of Egypt, and that'll make things a lot better. And that's good. We have a very strong economy, and we should be set to move into the next theater of our operations. But I think that's about it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, I will continue this one, and I'll see you all next time.